What's going on, Red Wings fans? Welcome to a special edition of the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Ray. We've got some draft lottery coverage for you as we are just an hour away from the NHL Draft Lottery. So while you're watching today, make sure using the hashtag LGRW, whatever social media platform you are watching in. Put your thoughts, your comments, your questioning that you want to potentially sow today, and we will try to get to it. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in the rest so we can get right to it. Joining me today are Regner, Ken Kal, and Carlston. You guys, I'm sure you're just as excited as I am. It feels like we were just doing this. It's NHL Draft Lottery night, the Red Wings, and there are some rules that we're going to go over before we start talking. So 15 teams that did not make the play eligible for the top 2 pick. Know that the Seattle Kraken will definitely get a top 5 pick. So we'll see where they finished last. In this case, Bill has the best odds at the 1 pick with a 16% chance of getting the no pick. Last team that was eliminated from the which is the New York Rangers. Last lottery winner has a 1% chance getting the number 1 pick. And of course, only Seattle, which I mentioned, will get a top. The part that I want to make sure everybody knows, Seattle and Buffalo can finish with the 3rd. And of course, Arizona has forfeited their round picks. So if they finish with the top picks, there will be a redraw. I think might be the most interesting thing because obviously just remove Arizona because you have all the odds calculated correctly. But guys, if Arizona and that 1 or 2 pick, we're doing a redraw.
Wait, I hope that happens. I hope it happens times. Early when we talked on the WOW show, we were saying, why are they even clever to keep the odds fair and the same? Draw have to be part of it. They've only get their 1st round pick. They haven't forfeited the draft, so that's why they're landed. So I just hope that Bill Daly, great holding up that NHL card in his hand, has to sit there and go. And the number 2 pick goes to the free Arizona Coyotes. Redraw. And then the 1st round pick, well, we know, goes to the freaking Arizona Coyotes. Redraw. It would be great because honestly, could something like that happen?
Well, as mentioned, Buffalo is the best at that number 1 pick with a 16% chance. Let's take a look at the Red Wings odds. Move forward here. The Red Wings have a 7% chance at number 1, 0.8% chance at number 2, 30% chance at 6, and their best odds are a 43.8% at 7, and then a 10.9% chance that they fall to that spot. Now, we know they fell to the 4th in last year's lottery, so I was optimistic on the word earlier today, and I am staying. This is the year the Red Wings are going up. I don't care what tank it can. I know you weren't on the word. What are you feeling heading into tonight's draft lottery?
Well, you know what? I was running all along tonight, all day today, and I'm trying to doing all the math equations and running systems and everything. So finally, I got a little bit of a group discussion with PR people here, and we actually draws this, and guess what I picked? 1 or 2. That's where we'll see if all that science research to help out. I look at it this way. Last several years down, it's about time they move up. So I guess 1 or 2 is the choice.
I like it. I love it. Art says 8, and they're taking a goalie no matter what. That's why he wants them to fall to 8. So.
Young Swede, Jesper Wallstedt, welcome to Detroit, my friend.
Oh, honestly, Carley's normally super optimistic, and she was not very optimistic earlier today. So I don't know how I'm feeling, Carley. I think I need your optimism raise up here.
I think I'm a little jaded at this point, but you know what? I think wherever we pick, I don't think we're going to get any, I should say, higher than 8. But if we stay at the 6 to 8, I don't think it's a bad thing. But you know what? I did the tankathon, and I had the Red Wings in my second tries. I think the first try they were slotted at 6th. Second try, we got the 1st overall pick. So you know what? you know, maybe my optimism's coming back and maybe we do get that first or second pick. But you know what? Like I said before, any pick that we get, this is a great prospect pool, so I won't be horribly mad. I will be disappointed if we don't get first or second, but I won't be horribly sad because I know that any player that we get, either at 6th, 7th, or 8th, first or second, it'll be good. I'm excited. Daniella, I think you're on mute. I think you're on mute.
Mute or mute? We can't hear you.
That was really weird. That was really weird. Okay, I was not muted, but then I muted and then I unmuted and then it came. Whatever. I didn't press the mute button this time. Okay, this one.
Likely story.
Mute out loud. So.
Well, you know the one thing the Red Wings do have going for them, though. In all truthfully, no matter where they drop, even if Gary Bettman had a special kind of rule where the Red Wings can draft no higher than 12th overall in the first round, something that he was able to get through Jeremy Jacobs there, the owner of Boston, who's not a big Detroit fan, whatever you can do. But let's just say that they have Steve Yzerman drafting. And I think that Steve has proven, if you look not only at who they've drafted in the first round with Mo Seider and Lucas Rehmann, who could end up being the best player in his draft class. We just don't know. And he became 4th overall. Steve's going to get it right. We know that. Steve is going to get it right. And so whatever he does, I have supreme confidence in that Yzerman knows what he's doing. And another thing, and I think the real underrated wild card in all of this is Nicholas Kronwall. Why do you say? Because Nicholas Kronwall was in Sweden this whole time. So he was over and he was talking to all of the, the Red Wing prospects that were there already, like a Veleno or a Seider or a Berggren or a Rehmann. But he was able to see all these high-end guys. He was able to travel. He was able to do all that kind of stuff. So I think that, the Red Wing scouting staff, which is extensive and very, very good, led by Håkan Andersson out there in Europe, I think that because Europe kind of opened up, I know that there were leagues shutting and all that, but there was a lot more hockey played in Europe than there really was in North America, even though the USHL and the colleges and the Quebec League and the Western League, but the OHL didn't play at all. So I do think that they covered everything. They had, their tentacles, much like the Kraken, they had their tentacles all over the world too. And so I think that they've done as good a job as you can do considering the circumstances as far as scouting players. So I'm pretty eager, and I really don't care where they pick. I truly don't. I mean, number 1 would be nice. Owen Power looks like a player. Number 2 would be great. Matty Beniers looks like a player. If Luke Hughes falls to them at 6, 7, or 8, that would be great. Or if Kent Johnston is there, obviously I'm naming all the Michigan players, but what I'm saying is that I really do have confidence that the Red Wings, as far as it when comes to drafting, as far as it comes to putting their resources in drafting, as far as scouting, I think they do it as well as anybody, especially with Steve here now. So I'm pretty confident no matter where they end up tonight, 8th, they're going to they are definitely going to be able to get a good high-end quality player.
Okay, well, Art thinks 8, and we did a Twitter poll on the Red Wings Twitter account to see what you guys think. Where do you think the Red Wings are going to fall in the lottery this year? Let's see what the results are so far. Oh, man, you know what? You're all pessimistic. You're probably jaded like Carley, but you're all pessimistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too far off, though. We have 46.2%. They'll drop down to 7th or 8th, but then 35 point something said first to second. So first or second. So, I mean, like I said, it really could go either way. I'm playing the optimism key, and I'm saying, yes, maybe we will get first because, like I said, I did that tankathon, and we were at that first pick. But like we've seen the past few years, 6, I would say even 6 to 8, I think is pretty confident pick to throw out there.
You know what? I have a question for you guys.
Oh, geez. What is it, Ken?
No, here's the thing. And this is, it all comes down to the draft selection show today is where they're going to places, right? How many number 1 picks can the Buffalo Sabres get over the last? I mean, they've got the best chance to get the number one pick. It doesn't mean they're going to get it, but odds are it favors them. Now, over the last 10 years, they haven't made the playoffs, right? But they have a really good shot at getting the first overall pick again. They've been successful in the past as far as securing that number one pick. They haven't really done much as far as turn their franchise around. But you know what? I look at the Red Wings last year and I say, you know what? They were the worst team in the National Hockey League. If anyone deserves a number one pick, it's the Red Wings. They fall back to fourth. But somehow things have to change a little bit. And, I mean, Edmonton's getting better now, but for years they had the number one pick. Buffalo Sabres have the number one pick. Something's got to change. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it just doesn't seem fair from year after year after year.
I think something's got to give in this league. But with the draft lottery, I know Dan Dickerson was talking about that earlier on the word on Woodward. Hello, I can't even say it now. On our typical noon to 2 show, he was saying, something's got to give. They have to figure it out. He was asking if tanking is really the reason why the lottery is in place in this league, and why is that such an issue? So I do think that's maybe another conversation, but I do think something else needs to be figured out in NHL.
Well, certainly it does. I mean, after last year's travesty, they should have, blown the whole thing up. And, maybe here's a novel idea. The worst team gets the number one pick. Unfortunately, it would be Buffalo this year. And I think it's only rumor that Owen Power has already said if drafted by the Sabres, he will not report. No, I'm just joking. I mean, Buffalo's going to go through, they're going through a lot over there. The whole Jack Eichel thing, how that's all going to play out. I don't know why, Pegula seems to be a pretty good owner. I mean, they have money. They went out and got Taylor Hall. That's a very odd situation, but you're right. It seems it's the cast of, the same characters, the usual suspects year in and year out seem to win the number one pick. If it isn't Edmonton, then it's Buffalo. Then you look, suddenly the Rangers pop out of nowhere and get the number one pick. Look at Philadelphia. They jump up 11 spots from 13 to 2. I mean, just odd things happened in this draft. None of it has benefited the Detroit Red Wings. None of it. They've fallen 9 slots since they've qualified for the draft lottery, the most of any other team. So it would be nice to see the Red Wings catch a break. And I would say this, if they catch a break and they get the 1 or 2 pick, that is going to be a really, really good player. And I wouldn't be surprised because I think it's pretty safe to say, and I know all of Carley and Kenny and Daniella, you've looked at all these mock drafts. It seems to play out right now that Owen Power, the defenseman from the University of Michigan, is a definitive number one pick. Most everybody now is in agreement that he's going to go number one. He solidified his position at number one with the World Hockey Championships that are going on right now in Riga, I believe. And he's played very, very well for Team Canada. He's one of the youngest players on that roster. But then after that, I think it is kind of wide open. Then it goes all over the board a little bit. It's not so much the names are different. It's just the draft order, meaning that Matty Beniers is like 7th on some, and he's rated 2nd in other ones. I mean, Luke Hughes is at 5. Some he's on 3. Some he goes down to 8. I mean, so I guess what I'm saying is that I have full confidence again in that if the Red Wings get one of the top 2 picks, if it's 1, I'm going with conventional wisdom. I'm saying it's Owen Power for sure. But at number 2, who knows? Is it Luke Hughes? His parents can come right from Canton and see him play every single day for the Red Wings or for U of M. And then, Kent Johnston's a guy not to sleep on too, sneaky good. Okay. And Matty Beniers is the guy I really, really like. I like Matt Beniers a lot.
All
I'd
love
to see him.
You're getting too far into this already. You're getting too far into this already.
Sorry.
Cool it. Drink of water, okay?
I can't help it.
I love your excitement. Your enthusiasm it's unmatched, Art. It's the best. But we're going to get into Downtown Hockey Town presented by Labatt Blue Light right now, where we are going to talk about some different scenarios for the Red Wings. If they are picking 1 or 2, or if they are picking 6, 7, or 8, how does the strategy change? What do they do? Does it change at all? Like you said, Art, the consensus number 1 pick seems to be Owen Power. So if they do end up with that number 1 pick, I'd imagine that's where they're going. But you also have Matthew Beniers, who is a great forward. And what do the Red Wings need the most? Goal scoring right now. I think that is their number one need. But do you pass on a great defenseman like that? I don't know. So let's start with that 1 or 2 spot. Ken, what do you think? Is it a consensus number one pick will be Owen Power?
Well, probably I would say yes. And that's the consensus over the last couple of weeks, Power going number one. But, when you look at the draft, and I have my top 20 list, and I think 6 of the players in my top 20 list are defensemen and pretty solid defensive players. So last year, there were a few good defensemen, but this year I think the solid players in the first 10 selections are defensemen. And, Owen Power's good. Edvinsson is another one. He's projected to go second, perhaps. And, Luke Hughes is another defenseman out there that could be highly sought of. So, the Red Wings could use defensemen. They've been drafting defensemen like Mo Seider, Tuomisto in the past. I've always said you can never have too many outstanding defensemen. And as the Red Wings move forward in their rebuilding program, if you start from the goaltending up through your blue line core and you get 4 or 5, maybe even 6 solid defensemen back there, you're going to change things around pretty quick. Now, with that said, Daniella, Art, and Carley, if they want to go for a goal scorer, and we all know they need to score, do you take a look at a Mason McTavish? I mean, here's a guy that's got one of the best, he's one of the best goal scorers right now in the first 10 picks in the draft, and, seems to find the right spots on the ice. And here's a guy from Peterborough, played with Peterborough, who can really shoot the puck. And if you're looking for offense and you're looking for a center iceman, maybe Mason McTavish is the way you go. So I think if the Red Wings go to 1 or 2, they pick a defenseman. If they go towards the middle, then I think maybe they go for a goal scorer.
Well, let's not forget that the Red Wings also have a late first-round pick that they acquired in the Jacob Vrana trade to Washington. So they will have either the 23rd or the 24th pick in the first round. Carley, how do you think that impacts what they do if they are picking at 6, 7, or 8?
It's interesting because we talk about goal scoring, and obviously that's something that this Detroit Red Wings lineup needs. Although I do think we saw some of that in Jacob Vrana in the few games we got to see of him at the end of the season. But I think it really depends on if Steve Yzerman goes with a goal scorer or some of these big defensemen that we see that are rated in some of the top 10, like we were talking about. Owen Power, obviously. I believe he's slated to go at 1 no matter what. Or Simon Edvinsson. I think he's another big defenseman that we could have that would pair nicely with Moritz Seider. I mean, he's about the same size as him, played in Sweden and Frölunda. It's interesting to see the dynamic. So if we do draft a defenseman earlier, I think he would draft a good goal scorer later on. I was looking at like Simon Robertson, and just some of these guys that would complement well with the players that we already have in our system. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think it's a tricky question to answer because I don't know if Steve is prioritizing getting a goal scorer and then he's like, well, let's save some of the defensemen later on because there are so many good defensemen in the top 10. So I know that was like not really answering your question. I was giving more questions to your question, but that's how I'm looking at it right now.
They're all tough questions to answer. This is all speculation, Art's favorite. And Carley and Ken, you both started talking about some prospects. So let's get back to that. I do want to thank Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. If you want more information on the NHL draft, check out Draft Central presented by Labatt Blue Light on DetroitRedWings.com. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. So now back to some of these prospects that we are seeing. You guys are kind of giving us names here. Art has mentioned Ken Johnston a couple times, who might be there at that 6, 7, or 8 spot. The one that I've seen the most, William Eklund, Swedish. It makes sense. Art, as you mentioned, Kronwall has been in Sweden. He's been able to see him a lot. And Eklund is projected at that 6 spot in a lot of different drafts. And even at the 7 slot, if the Red Wings fall there, I have seen him as well. So what do you think about him? And is this a realistic and probable draft pick for the Red Wings?
Well, yeah, I think he is. They definitely need goal scoring. They need high level forwards. If you look at it, obviously the Red Wings have had a pipeline to Sweden here now for decades. It usually turns out well for them. I think that in most mock drafts that we have seen now, Eklund appears to be the guy. If everything kind of holds true and the Red Wings fall in that 6 or 7 category, he seems to be the guy, along with Brant Clark. One of those, they seem to be the two guys that the Red Wings are going to go for. I'm under the impression that it looks like early on, unless they fall to 8 and they take the goaltender, that Detroit might want to go with a forward, because they really do need, I mean, let's be honest, as much as, I love the Red Wings, and I have since I was a little boy growing up on, listening to Ken Kal call games on the radio. I just want to say that he's my favorite announcer. I love him. But I just want to say that I think that they need goal scoring, and I really do believe that if they're, depending on where they're at, if there's somebody there that is a potential highly skilled forward, even though it's top heavy, as Carley's pointed out, it's top heavy in defense, I think he's really do. If he goes down to 8, Steve might just chuck it and go with Jesper Wallstedt, a goaltender, because they definitely need goaltender. Ken made an excellent point earlier where he said, you want to build your team from the goal mouth out. We saw, we mentioned it on WOW earlier today, what Carey Price was able to do to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, goaltending is essential. It's very, very important. Jesper Wallstedt, look at that guy. I mean, he looks like he should be on a Hollywood set or something. I mean, he's like a cross between, David Hasselhoff and somebody. I mean, this guy, he just reeks of superstardom. I can't help it. 6'3", 214 pounds. I mean, serious, great goaltender. I mean, and Detroit needs a goalie. I mean, they need a goalie in their system that is young and is going to be able to take this job and, sooner rather than later. Is Jesper Wallstedt, and what sold me on him more than anything is that the reports that you read is that Askarov, who I was really high on last year, the young Russian goaltender, I'm still very, very high on him as well, but he's not a Red Wing. But this could be the answer. If they can catch a break on a player, and, I say this all the time, but if they can catch a break on the player and it's a goaltender they catch a break on, guess what? This rebuild is in high gear a little bit because they got the guy between the pipes who can steal games, can win games, could be capable of winning a playoff series. They can, if Jesper Wallstedt's that guy, I'm telling you, I don't care at second pick, take him. I mean, they need goaltending. They need goaltending.
This is deja vu. I feel like I'm going back to last year and Art just raving about Askarov. This is deja vu all over again.
I will say,
go ahead, Carley.
So I caught up with Ryan Martin not too long ago. It was maybe a couple months ago for catching up with Carley on the Word on Woodward. And he was talking about, I asked him about the goalie prospects. And he said, we have good goaltenders in the pipeline, just no breakout star netminders that we have in this organization. So I don't know, Art, you're starting to get me on that goalie train with you. Now I'm being persuaded by Art in the middle of the show that, you know what, it didn't sound so bad. Maybe we'll get that goaltender. I kind of really want one now. But
I'm patting you on the back, Carley. The Carley pat.
I'm influenced.
You know what,
you're definitely bringing up a good argument.
I'm looking at my list, and I have Wallstedt, the goaltender, around 14, 15 on my list. Not that my list means anything, but you know what? The Red Wings do have a later pick in the round. So let's just say they go with somebody else, and if Wallstedt is the guy that moves down, they can pick him up in the late first round pick. I believe with the pick that they get from the Washington Capitals, right? Well, here's the thing. Another forward to look at, I think, is that Atu Ratti. He's a center iceman, and the Red Wings need good two-way center icemen. And when you look at all the center icemen that are on the list right now, he fits that. I mean, he has very good puck skills. It seems like he's got the speed and the quickness. And I think when you look at the Red Wings and their history, they've always had great two-way centers. And whether it be Yzerman, Fedorov, Datsuk or Zetterberg, I mean, it's what the Red Wings built their team around. This is a guy right here. He's got pretty good size, 6'1", 177 pounds. He's a guy that maybe could surprise somebody if the Red Wings want to go with a center iceman.
Well, I think Ken brings up a great point.
Go ahead, Art.
I do. Oh, well, all right. I was going to say, I think it's a good point now. Another thing, too, if they don't go goaltender, with that first pick, if Jesper's a little too high, with that 24th pick that they're going to get in the first round, maybe then they go. I don't think look, Jesper's gone at 24, but maybe Sebastian Cossa isn't, who is a big goaltender himself. I mean, Sebastian Cossa could be a guy who also could be that. Look at that. Look at 17-1-0, a goals against a 1.57, 941 pace save percentage. 4 shutouts in 19 games for the Edmonton Oil Kings in the WHL. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, obviously, and he's big. He fits the bill of the prototypical goaltender that they're looking for the NHL right now. And he covers a lot of net. Even when he goes down, he's still big. And even though they shoot high these days, he could be somebody that they could go for. I know I'm goaltender obsessed. I don't know why. Maybe a psychologist could have a field day with that, but I really do think that. I think the Red Wings have a nice little core brewing of young defensive prospects. I really do. Forwards need to be shored up, and some of the guys that are playing for the Red Wings right now on the forward core have to up their game and score more goals. They just do. They'd be the first to admit that. But boy, if you can get a goaltender that could be on the short track, the fast track to Detroit, boy, that would help this organization out immensely. And there seem to be a couple. With Jesper and with Sebastian, that these two young men might be those guys.
Art, well, you talk a lot about Keith Petruzzelli, and we know that he may return for his senior year at Quinnipiac next season, but the Red Wings would still retain his rights. Do you think that has any impact on if the Red Wings take a goaltender at some point throughout the draft? I don't want to say that. I should say in the first round.
I guess does he go back to Quinnipiac, or does he not sign if he signs with Detroit, fine and dandy. I think he's in Grand Rapids next year, fighting for that number one position, and hey, Keith's capable. I mean, I like the kid. I mean, I've known him since his draft day. I'd love to see the big Bostonian, be in the net for Detroit. But he, if he can't work out a deal and he doesn't go to Quinnipiac, then he's an unrestricted free agent in the middle of August sometime. I think they have till like August 14th. So if they don't get him signed, then he can sign with any team, and who knows, maybe he wants to sign with his hometown Bruins. Tuukka Rask is getting long in the tooth. I don't know. I mean, he will have options, but what I'm saying is that Petruzzelli would be great. I'd love to see Keith sign with Detroit and get his butt to Grand Rapids. He played for the Muskegon Lumberjacks in the USHL, so he's familiar, likes the western side of the state. That would be cool. But, I think Petruzzelli, and I don't know, because obviously I'm not in on these meetings, I don't know how serious he is about going back to Quinnipiac. I don't know if, maybe he thinks, hey, I got a better shot if I just play it out. Don't sign with the Red Wings, and then I'm a free agent. And, because he had 2 really good seasons, his junior and senior years at Quinnipiac. He was great. He was a Hobey Baker finalist, which is, hockey's equivalent of the Heisman Trophy finalist this year. So I like Petruzzelli. I just don't know where he's at, and I don't know if the Red Wings have the patience that they can sit here and wait another year for him.
You know everything about Keith Petruzzelli, but question, does it impact if the Red Wings take a goaltender in the first round, whether they think they're going to sign Keith Petruzzelli or not?
I think if Petruzzelli doesn't sign before draft day, and we're talking July 23rd or 24th, unless they take a goalie in the first round, which they may. If Petruzzelli isn't signed by then I think, hey, I wouldn't pass Steve to say, okay, well, let's get somebody else in. These guys are too good to wait on Keith Petruzzelli for a year. Nothing against Pete. Or Keith. All right.
All right. You know what we're all thinking. I want to know what fans are thinking, though, aside from poll that we saw earlier, all you pessimists, but I've seen some good responses out there. So let's see how our fans are feeling in media tonight. Ooh, some good gifts. I'm going to be optimistic. Bojangles Bananas, interesting name. Great optimism.
Very interesting.
Oh, that's a good one.
Me,
Fingers crossed.
Love it.
Oh,
no.
I feel you, D. I feel you.
Is that Dan Dickerson? Is that Dan Dickerson's burner account?
Well, you know, he's in Chicago. It's a day off.
Oh, that's funny. Well, our fans are doing great out there. I love that. You guys stay with us. Make sure if you're using the hashtag LGRW, if you're watching, that way we can get your questions, thoughts, comments, where you're watching from, whatever it may be. We'll try to get it on the show today. But I think it's time for a little tankathon simulation because we haven't done one yet during this show. And maybe it's Ken Kal, maybe it's all four of us together. I don't know, but let's see. Is it bad?
Right,
I get
spin
nervous
the wheel.
every time we do this, you guys.
Is it going?
Uh-oh.
Or are we just
It's not even going to happen. It's not even going to happen.
I've got one here. I'm doing my own right now. Red Wings are at 6.
Okay, I'm gonna do.
Red Wings are at 6. I've done it. Red Wings are at 6. Red Wings are at 7. I just did it 4 times. 3 6s and a 7.
7 on the official tankathon. Wow. All right.
I got first. I'm rolling with that.
Did you see Calgary all the way up there at number 1 too?
Doesn't surprise me.
Calgary. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. You know. New York's number 1. Philadelphia jumps 11 spots. Chicago jumped like 9 one year, and then the 1 year where the number 1 team, when Austin Matthews was available and Toronto had the best odds of the number 1 pick. Surprise, 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 as Gomer Pyle would say. Boom, they get the number 1 pick. I mean, yeah. Give me a break.
New York
so Detroit
only has a 1% chance, so that's the good news out of everything.
Yeah, well,
tonight.
you know, Dallas has a 1.4. Hey, I'd rather see Dallas get it than anybody if the Red Wings can't get it.
Can you imagine if the New York Rangers get the number 1 pick again this year? No. Can you imagine the repercussions from that?
There would have to be something, right? I mean, there would have to be, that would be the noticing of the flaw in the system, I think, for the NHL if that actually happened. I hope, at least.
Look, if a team if a team from like 11, from where Arizona is at 11, from 11 down, if one of those teams, which are Arizona, Chicago, Calgary, Philadelphia, Dallas, and the Rangers, one of them get it. I mean, come on, NHL, come to your senses and change this thing, all right? I mean, just change it. These are teams that have 2, 3, 4% chance at the most of getting it. And if they end up getting it, it kind of defeats the purpose, I think, of creating fans' interest. Because what happens is fans in cities that teams are, could really use a shot in the arm and adrenaline, they just become old and bitter and cynical at the draft. And, they don't even care. They tune out because they don't think that it's very fair. And so, hopefully, if Buffalo doesn't get it, Anaheim, I'd like to see the Kraken get it, actually. What the heck? Let the Kraken get it. Because those fans' expectations, because of Vegas, are through the roof. And, and we know the Las Vegas, the Vegas Gold Knights, that's an aberration. That's never going to happen again. So these Seattle people are going to be buying all the Kraken gear and all that and think that they're going to go to the Stanley Cup final next year. No way. No way. Not going to happen. So give them the number 1 pick.
Well, I'm sure we all do that. Go ahead, Daniella. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Carly. We had Everett Fitzhugh on WOW earlier today, and he was talking. He's the radio play-by-play for the Seattle Kraken. Ken, he's really excited to come back to Detroit. I don't know if you know him, but he's from the area, and he's really excited to come back here and call a game against the Red Wings when they come here in the next season. But he did say that everyone in Seattle is super excited. They don't have players, they don't have a coach, they don't have anything. But he said the city is absolutely buzzing around this NHL team. So yeah, I'm with you. Give them the first round pick or the first overall pick and let them get really excited about something.
And another thing he said is that their ownership has said they'll spend money. I mean, they'll go out and they're going to be in the game for these UFAs, guys that are I mean they're not afraid to spend some bucks. So we'll see. It's that expansion draft is going to be fascinating because so many GMs were hoodwinked by Vegas and came out really bad. And here, I love this guy, so take this guy and keep this guy. Okay, I'll take I'll take Marchessault off your hands. I'll take William Karlsson off your hands. Sure, hey Pittsburgh, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Matt Murray, who's already been traded to Ottawa, yeah, keep him and expose Marc-Andre Fleury. Yeah, I'll take a Hall of Fame goaltender. I mean, I just don't see that happening this time around. I mean, I wish the Kraken nothing but the best. I really do. But I mean, what we saw in Vegas is just not going to happen again.
The good thing about the National Hockey League right now is the fact that in years gone by, when San Jose came to the National Hockey League, I think they won 8 or 9 games their first year, and it took them forever to be a solid hockey team. But that's not how it works anymore. And I think the league wants the new teams to be competitive right off the get-go. And I don't think anybody will ever match what Vegas did. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's mind-boggling that in their first season they go to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, that's just unheard of. And I'll tell you what, Seattle's got a tough act to follow after that. But things are changing right now. I think the players, the draft, who you can protect and who you can't. I think if you're a shrewd general manager and you get the right players and you build your team like Vegas did, you got a good opportunity to be good right off the get-go. And so, I give Seattle and Vegas a lot of credit, and I think Seattle's going to do a pretty good job, and there's going to be some players that are going to be available for them.
Carley, you were going to jump in there last time.
Yep.
No, I'm just saying I would never count out the Seattle Kraken because none of us could have even imagined that the Vegas Golden Knights could have done what they did their first couple of years even. I mean, they continue to grow and prosper as a team, and I think that we shouldn't count out the Kraken. Although I would, like you guys are saying, I would love to see them get that first round pick because there aren't many teams that I am happy to see now I'm saying first round draft pick, the first overall pick. There are many teams besides the Red Wings that I want to see at that slot, but the Seattle Kraken, I think this year wouldn't be mad about it as long as the Red Wings are second. You know what I mean? So
Fair enough. All right, let's get back to talking some prospects, you guys. In the upcoming draft, we obviously have the draft lottery happening in just over 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes on NBCSN. But a prospect we haven't talked about, Dylan Guenther. He is out of the WHL, a winger. Another high-touted winger in the NHL draft this year, but I just don't know if I see the Red Wings going for another winger. I think if they are going to go for a forward in the first round, it may be a center, or of course, William Eklund would be the exception to that because I have seen him going off many boards. But Dylan Guenther, still pretty good option there for the Red Wings if they do want to go winger. Ken, do you think that they will?
I got him number 3 on my top 20 list right here, and he's a really good skater. He's, he can thread a pass like nobody else. He's pretty good, pretty talented. He's got a dangerous shot. He's smart. He's an attacking player that produces offensively. He's 6 foot, 166 pounds, and his numbers over the last season: 58 games played, 26 goals, 59 points. But really, what amazes me is that plus 26 total. So that tells me that he's generating offense, and he's pretty good defensively too. Now, will that translate into the National Hockey League? We'll just have to wait and see. But if the Red Wings are looking for a right winger, obviously Guenther's the kind of guy that they would take a look at.
And definitely if he's going as high as 3 on some boards, that wouldn't really be possible for the Red Wings at that 1 or 2 spot. It looks like it's going to be Owen Power, as we've been talking about, and then another Wolverine in Matthew Beignet going at number 2. So at the number 3 spot, I don't know if the Red Wings will really have a chance at him, but if they do, he's somebody that would definitely look good in a winged wheel sweater.
Yeah, we don't know. We really don't know after Owen Power how this is going to play itself out. Like I said, we can sit here and probably there's 9 names, 9 different players that are probably in the top 10. But what's going to happen is it's where teams value them and how they need them. So it's really kind of difficult to predict after Owen Power what's going to happen. That he has separated himself from the pack. That's why it will be interesting. I mean, let's be honest. Seattle by that time they're going to draft their team on the 21st of July, and then 2 days later they're gonna have to then start picking their team. Then it's going to be the draft. So I don't know. Maybe based on how they're going to approach free agency and the expansion draft, them being the Kraken, that a lot depends on where they're going to draft. They can draft no lower than 5. So let's see, what they're thinking and where they're going to go. Because once this draft thing is the lottery is settled, I think teams are then going to start to maneuver a little bit and get into position. And I think the Kraken's going to be open for business officially at that point, because teams will say, okay, you got the 5th pick, boom, boom, boom. Well, if you need a real forward, they're just like what happened to Vegas. Vegas had teams approaching them. I can't protect this guy, but I'm not going to protect him. But if you don't take him, promise not to take him. And it's like, okay, then trade me so-and-so and a pick. And, and that's what George McPhee did. I mean, it was brilliant, really, what he did. So, I mean, that's going to be – today's just the beginning. Now we're going to see how it's all going to be put together and how it's all going to come together. And, again, not to sound too redundant here, but no matter how it comes together for the Red Wings, I think that, this is a very capable staff. They've drafted very well the last couple of years. Heck, last 3 years, the Zadina draft and, Rasmussen, they've had some pretty good players come down the pipeline here. So I'm pretty confident no matter how it plays out, the Red Wings are going to be fine.
All right, Ken, I have to ask
you. Sure. Real quick, Daniella, Carley, and Art. I'm not so sure that in this year's draft that Owen Power will go number 1. And Art brings up a good point here. Depending on who selects first, it's all about a team's need. If a team doesn't need a defenseman, they might look somewhere else. And then Power drops to 2 or 3. And it's not like it's Lafreniere last year where everyone's going after him. I mean, I think there's some teams out there that might want to select a center or a right winger or a left winger or maybe even a goaltender, maybe not Wallstedt that high. But again, I think it all depends on a team's need. Now, if a team's pretty good defensively, let's just take, for example, the Buffalo Sabres, all right? They picked Rasmus Dahlin a couple of years ago first. Maybe this year they go for if they get the first pick, they go for a forward, and then Power drops down a little bit. So I don't think there's a outright number 1. Art makes a good point. Owen Power has certainly separated himself from a lot of the field here. But again, depending on who gets that number 1 pick and their overall team needs, that's how it's going to play out, I think.
All right, Ken, and my question for you was this. Where do you have Chaz Lucius ranked on your board? He was around 8 or 9 every board that I saw, but he's a center out of the U.S. National Development Program right here in Plymouth. He is committed to the University of Minnesota for next season, but he is said to have one of the hardest shots or the hardest shot in this draft class. So where do you have him at, Ken?
On my board, I have him at 11th, and I got him right after Luke Hughes, who we haven't really talked about. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about him before the night's over. But, Lucius is a really good opportunistic player, and he usually connects when he has a scoring chance. And we see him right there in action. And, he can score in a variety of ways, whether it's the shot that you mentioned. He's pretty smart offensively. He's good in tight areas around the net. He's got really good hands. A lot of times they say he's got magic hands around the net. And so if you're looking for a guy that can get in front of the net and make things happen and has those magic hands to score, then obviously Lucius is a guy that you might want to take a look at. But on my list, I have him at number 11.
Number 11, I like it. And obviously another big center there. It's interesting. It's so hard to talk about this because if the Red Wings are picking at 8, Carley, that could be another viable option for them if they are looking to add depth at that center position.
I mean, there are so many options here's my thing that I've been thinking about since we've been talking about in the past couple of years that Steve Yzerman has been general manager. We do this and we'll do this for an hour and we'll talk about all the speculations. We'll do all these mock drafts and we'll have all these names in our pocket where we're like, okay, it sounds good. If we're slotted here, maybe these other guys that CBY will select. He never selects people or the players that we expect him to select. So I really think any player in the pool that we look at from the top down, like from 1 to 30 of people who are slotted in any one of those numbers, Steve Yzerman can choose. I'm going crazy with my hands right now because I'm getting all riled up like Art. But I think someone that we haven't really talked about that slotted fairly later that I think as a forward would be beneficial is, I said his name earlier, Simon Robertson. I mean, I think he's a really well-rounded player with few flaws. He was playing really well in Sweden's J20 league. He scored 9 goals and 20 points in just 15 games before they canceled the season. I don't know, but he's slotted very late in a couple mock drafts that I did. He was in the 20s. So again, I feel like we're talking about a lot of the top 10 forwards, but I'm looking at all of the forwards in the prospect pool because CVY really, really throws us for a loop, at least in the past couple of years he has. So I don't know. That's the name that I'm looking at. Maybe that's my dark horse candidate.
There you go. Well, you already picked your dark horse, so stick with him when we give those at the end of the show today. Art, I do want to ask you about another Michigan Wolverine that we haven't talked about. He's a defenseman, so we're going to switch it up a little bit here. Luke Hughes. He's committed to the University of Michigan, I should say, so he'll be there next year. He also plays at the U.S. National Development Team in Plymouth right now. But I see him projected to go around 4 or 5 in this draft. So I'm not sure if the Red Wings will have a shot at drafting him. But earlier today on Wow, Art, you talked to Mike Morial for the headliner, and he made a very interesting point that scouting defensemen was especially difficult this year, just because of the fact that when you're watching film, they aren't always up in the play. They aren't always right where the puck is. So you don't know if they're making the right defensive play or if they're in the right position. Do you think that's going to affect how some teams draft this year?
I think that, because of his brothers, and because of Quinn and Jack Hughes, I think that they know that he has the bloodline and that he has the hockey sense. I think that Luke Hughes is a very, very special player. He is pretty much out of all the brothers. I mean, he's the real Michigan kid, so to speak, because he was being the youngest. I believe he played for Little Caesars, and then he went to the development program. He committed to Michigan rather early. He's been committed for a couple of years. He's going to go there. I mean, what I like about him is that I like him that he has the size. His brothers are terrific and highly skilled players. They're just not as big as him. So, I would be thrilled if the Red Wings took Luke Hughes. I think that, he is going to be somebody who's going to step into Ann Arbor, which is going to have a stacked hockey team next year. Virtually everyone's is a draft pick or a number 1 draft pick on that roster, it seems like. So a lot of guys taken in the first round. I think that he's going to be in a really, really good situation at U of M. I think that Mel Pearson as his coach is going to help him out. I think that he's, playing close to home. Certainly, he grew up in the Canton area, played all his hockey here in Michigan. I think that he is a very offensive-minded player, but very responsible. He's a two-way player. I really, really like his game. Again, I would be thrilled if Luke Hughes ended up being a Detroit Red Wing. I don't think they could go wrong with that pick.
Yeah, I don't think they could either. And as you mentioned, obviously, as we've been talking about this whole show, actually, Owen Power seems to be the consensus number 1. But Ken, you made a solid point that, he may not be. We don't know exactly how this is going to fall this year, whether the team that ends up in that number 1 slot wants a defenseman. And as I just asked Art, do you think the way that they had to scout this year through video is going to impact how teams draft?
Well, obviously, you really want to see players play, right, live and in person. And obviously, that's not really happening, or it didn't happen as much as I think it would be in the past. And, as far as your question regarding defensemen and how you scout them, I think one of the things that scouts look at, whether or not they're in the right position or not, is how well they handle themselves under pressure in their own zone. And, it's a different game, obviously, now than it is if they're playing in the National Hockey League. But sometimes you have to look at a player, especially if they're a defenseman, and when they're under pressure, do they make the right play? Do they cough up the puck? Do they make the first pass out of their own zone to get out of trouble? How well do they see the ice? Are they willing to skate it out? Are they willing to take a hit and make a play? These are all little things that I think scouts look at. And, when you're playing under pressure, especially in your own zone, you're looking at defensemen who can do these things and do it on a consistent level. So I think whether you're watching on video or live in person, some of these things that you can see when they're under pressure really helps you make a decision on whether or not you want to draft him.
All right, you guys, I said we were going to give our dark horses before we get to the draft lottery coverage on NBC Sports Network coming up in just a few minutes. Carley already gave us hers, but go ahead, Carley, start us off. Who is your dark horse pick?
All right. Like I said, I got to go with Simon Robertson. I know we were talking about, Ken was just talking about how players can bounce back after something, and just looking through his scouting reports, because obviously I didn't see him play live. He had few flaws, and when he did make a mistake, he was quick to try and correct it. Like let's say he lost a puck, he really hustled to get it back. He has a great shot. He gets it off his stick quick, and he had some time on the power play, and that's something that obviously the Red Wings really need help with, is their specialty teams, especially their power play. So just having someone who has a quick shot, someone who can read goalies well and get that puck in the back of the net, I think would help the Detroit Red Wings on top of that specialty teams play. So he's going to be my dark horse candidate. I know they had him slotted to go in the kind of like 25th to 30th overall. But I think maybe he'll be a little earlier in that first round, and I think the Red Wings may pick him up. And when I say the Red Wings, I mean Steve Yzerman, because we always know, we never know what Steve Yzerman's going to do. That's one thing we know about the draft. We don't know.
All right. Well, Ken, I think you did give yours too. So you go next. Who is your dark horse pick heading into this draft?
Well, one of the advantages I think Steve Yzerman has is the ability to watch some of the top 10 players in this year's draft, the way I have them listed, up close and personal. And what I mean by that is, they can go to Ann Arbor, watch Owen Power play, right? They can see Matthew Beniers play. Luke Hughes is another guy. Kent Johnston's another one. So, if you're going to select in the first round and you can't make it over to Europe, but you've got these guys in your own backyard, you can actually see them play game in and game out more than you can see other teams or other leagues play. So that can be an advantage if, Steve Yzerman wants to go with a local kid that plays at Michigan. But I will say this, I was wrong last year. I thought the Red Wings would go after Marco Rossi. I'm glad they took Luke Rehmann. Rossi, he was injured, and I thought he was one of the better goal scorers, I think, in the draft, at least that I thought he would be. But if the Red Wings are going to go for a dark horse candidate, if they don't select a player from Michigan, I think they might take a serious look at Mason McTavish. And the reason why is, out of all these players that we've talked about, he seems to have the hot hand. He seems like to be in the right place at the right time. He uses his side to make space in front of the net, and he's put up terrific numbers. I mean, if you look at his numbers, 57 games played, 29 goals, 42 points. I mean, here's a guy that can put the puck in the net. So he would be my dark horse candidate for the Red Wings, Mason McTavish.
Who did you say? I just cut out on me. The Michigan, if they don't go for a Michigan player, who did you say it was going to be?
Mason McTavish.
Oh, I thought you said if they didn't go for never mind. I misheard that.
No,
All right.
No, Danielle, I said if they don't select a player from Michigan, I think the dark horse is going to be Mason McTavish, who played at Peterborough.
Oh, I thought you gave us two names there and I just missed one. Okay, my bad. Art, I'm going to let you go. I'll wrap it up.
Well, it's come down to two for me.
If you say one of mine, where?
Oscar Olsson, who is a right wing, but I'm not going to say Oscar, although I do love his name. I'm going with Fabian Lysell, who is a 5'10.5". He's a right wing. He's a very highly skilled player, has a great shot, very, very underrated. He's a guy who is either really high on draft boards or really low. That tells me he's the kind of guy that, depending on what night you saw him play, is how you base your draft lottery on it. Where you've slotted him. I really think that he is a really gifted young player. Obviously, being Swedish, he comes from a good stock. Like I said, Red Wings have had some really, really good luck with Swedish players. He's not the biggest guy, obviously, but he's highly skilled, low maintenance player, plays a good two-way game, has a lot of offensive upside. And I just think that he's the type of guy that thinks the game really, really well. And I think when it comes to high hockey IQ, he's up there at the top of his class, which I still believe is the number one criteria. If you want to be a Detroit Red Wing, regardless of position, you have to, your number one asset has to be a high hockey IQ. Fabian Lysell, that's the guy that fits that bill.
All right. Well, I'm going to go next. I cheated a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I don't think this is a dark horse pick for the first pick in the first round, if that makes sense. So the Red Wings first pick in the first round, I don't think this is going to happen. But later in the first round at that 23-24, I think this is a possibility. Obviously, it all depends on everything. We're all speculating again. But Matthew, a.k.a. Mackey, he goes by Mackey Samskovich. And he's also a University of Michigan commit. So I know Art will be happy about that one. He's committed for the 21-22. He's currently playing for the Chicago Steel in the USHL. He is projected to go in the mid-second round right now. But I found a few experts, if you will, when I was looking through mock drafts and reading different things and watching different highlights, talk about him dropping into the late first round because he's a really, really underrated prospect in the sense. Oh, he's a center. I didn't even say that yet. He's a center. So he's a very good two-way center, and his stick handling is outstanding. He has amazing vision. And from what I saw, it seems like he doesn't actually pass the eye test, which is really all you had when you're watching video and highlight reel footage when you're trying to scout these guys. So you have to watch him in person, and the way he plays off the puck is apparently incredible. So I'm going with him. I saw some great highlights. He had a great highlight reel. Mackey Samskovich. Write it down, guys. Write it down. Do some research.
Okay. How do you spell that?
Okay, it's Matthew, aka Mackey, and it's Samskevich.
Oh, very easy.
I'm surprised you didn't know that, Art, Mr. Michigan.
I tell you, Mel's got a hell of a team. I'm going to say that. My gosh. Is they're going to have enough ice time for the team that Michigan's going to put on the ice next year. And they also have a pretty good Swedish goalie, the Wolverines. So I can't wait to go to Yost Ice Arena. And, Kenny Kal's called many, many, many games at Yost Ice Arena.
Yeah, one of the best places in the world to see a hockey game. And I was fortunate enough to see many great players play over the years, not only on Michigan, but other teams that came into Yost Ice Arena. But love the crowd, love the college kids that come in there and cheer. It's a great place, great environment.
All right, guys, it's time to tune in to NBCSN. The draft lottery is just seconds away now. So we'll have some reaction for you after the lottery and a Steve Yzerman post-lottery press conference as well. So definitely tune in. I don't know what you guys are doing, but
I'm cross-checking the lottery guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Detroit well.